Hello, this is Mark Tucker.
And this is Allen Firstenberg, and together we are Two Voice Devs.
Two Voice Devs. Hey, Alan.
Hey, Mark, how's it going?
It's going okay. I'm coming back from being a little sick last week, so I'm happy to be back and talking some more AI stuff with you.
As always, it is fantastic to be able to chat with you like we are. I know you've been exploring some new stuff recently, and curious to hear what kind of stuff you've been doing and what you've been discovering.
Yeah, so I think today we're going to talk about Microsoft Copilot Studio.
Okay.
Now, the word Copilot's used lots of different places. But this is specifically Copilot Studio. So if you go to copilotstudio.microsoft.com, that's where you will find this particular tool. And it is a low code tool for creating agents. We've talked about voice flow, and there's a number of different other tools that you can use to diagram out flows. It does handle conversational, like Q&A bots, things like that, but it focuses a lot on different integrations and specifically enterprise integrations. It's a cousin to the Power Platform, Power Tools, things like that that they've got on the Microsoft side of things. And so I just thought we would kind of explore that a little bit, see what it takes to create an agent, and kind of how it relates to, in some ways, the old way that we used to do things with specifying out flows, but also integrating in some Gen AI stuff as well. So just kind of a little mix and mash. It's just a very simple project, um, but I thought that would be a good thing to dive into and get to understand a little bit more.
Makes sense to me. Let's get going.
Okay. So over here on the screen, we're on, like I said, copilotstudio.microsoft.com, and um, you can create an agent and kind of like creating a GPT for ChatGPT. You can type in what you want the agent to do, and it can create a very simple agent for you. Things that it can create are Q&A, kind of a voice type agent, but
But you know that I picked right up on where it said voice agent, an agent with voice capability. So have you
yeah,
played with that yet?
I have not played with that one yet. So what we're going to work on is something with this called a file upload agent that I worked on. So that's kind of
Okay.
where we're going to spend our time today. I just threw that together this afternoon, um, and so we can kind of just jump into that. But if you were to create your own agent, you'd come over here and you can click create, and it would take you to a screen where you could select some different templates, or you could just create a brand new agent from scratch. And so there's just some different examples and different things like that. So also you can see your list of agents down here under agents. Um, but we're going to go into the details of this file upload agent. So all I did is create a brand new one, and I started from scratch, and just named it file upload agent. So nothing really special about creating it. But if you notice in this studio, it's got two panes. It has this main kind of detail pane, which is about different things about the agent, and then on the right hand side over here, there is a test your agent, and you can already see that it says, "Hello, I'm file upload agent," which was the name that I gave it. Tells you a little bit about different things like that. So it's like ready to go for you to test it out. But I wanted to talk a little bit about some of these other tabs. So there's a knowledge tab, which is adding files, data. So this seems like this is where you would do RAG type stuff. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
um, ground your agent with some data. There's this tools tab. Nothing in here. And we'll talk about an example of a tool as we're going through this example.
I was gonna say,
Um,
are these traditional, what we've referred to as tools now for a couple of years? Is that
No, well, not really, no, because there's connections. So I don't think it's tools in the LangChain uh, definition of tools, but it is
well, I was
connecting to other things. So it's
I
not
mean, I
necessarily just function calling. It's more.
okay. I mean, I was thinking, even in even in the MCP definition of a tool, or
Yeah.
we'll cover
So
this. Okay.
yeah. So the thing that I want to focus on initially is this topics. So when you create a brand new agent out of the box, you get 9 system topics that, if you think about it, it's kind of like more like when we used to create voice bots, Alexa skills, Google Actions before. It gives you one that's conversation start, conversation boosting, end of conversation, fallback. Some of these things are things that you would normally see. So if we were to drill
Mm-hmm.
down into this conversation start, then this is where it comes into um, this designer canvas. So the trigger is when the conversation starts, and it's going to give you, here's this message box here. And it gives you the ability, to kind of add this plus here, and you can add a message, add a question, an adaptive card, do some variable stuff. So this is kind of where you start to see the low code functionality. Here's this separate add a tool functionality. But if you notice in here, it says, hello, I'm bot.name, a virtual. So this is where this start message comes from, is from this conversation start flow.
Okay.
So it's got some other ones. Besides these system flows, it gives you some custom ones. Now, this file upload one was one that I added, and we'll go into more detail on that. But there's one for greeting, there's one for goodbye. So if we were to say, hello to this bot, then you can see that the test agent is coming over to this thing called an activity map, and it says that it's found the greeting topic. And the description of the greeting topic is good afternoon, good morning, hello, and there's some sample phrases. So this isn't the old school where you have to like specify all the different utterances. You give it some examples, but you don't have to like figure out all the different possibilities of things that are going to be said. And so it's in progress, and it's going to go through, and it says its response back was, hello, how can I help you today?
Now those phrases are the customer's phrases.
Yeah, this
So
would be
this
like
is
the phrases that the utterances that the user would enter in. And that's how these sample phrases here is how the topic gets mapped to what the user types over here. So I
got it.
typed in
Okay.
hello, it went through the list of topics, said, oh, this matches to the greeting topic. And so then it's going to do the thing that the greeting topic says to do. That's kind of how that flow or that topic starts.
Okay. So I mean, this is very much like Dialogflow intent so far.
Yeah, yeah, very much like that. And just to show though, you could say like, uh, let's see, greetings, my good fellow. And it says, hello, how can I help you today? And it mapped to that. Once again, it found the greeting topic. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to match exactly what it is. And like if we were to go back to the topics to the greeting topic, then we can see in here the kind of this examples of what we want to have it find. But then here is the message that comes back: hello, how can I help you today? Hello, how can I help you today?
Okay.
And end all topics is just kind of a way for it to fall out and say, okay, I'm done covering that thing. So
Don't try to match another topic as well. Got
yeah,
it.
yeah, and
Okay.
don't go back, or you're done. It's kind of like the end of the conversation turn. We've got that for greeting. The same thing. We could goodbye. We could type in start over, things like that. So all those are things are built in. Let's jump in. Well, here let's take a look at just goodbye for just a second, because you can get a lot more complicated. Um, so here, trigger starts this topic is the agent chooses. So the agent is going to figure out which topic matches and then pick that topic and execute it's not really a flow, but it's the because there's something else over here called flows, which is different. So, but it executes the steps that are as part of that topic. But then you can ask, like, here's a question. You can say, would you like to end our conversation? And then you can answer. So you got some like ability to do functions and some logic. If it's true, then go to this end of conversation, which was a built-in or system supplied topic that it gave. If we say no, then would you like to end? Oh, and the answer no. They go ahead, I'm listening. So you can add some level of complexity with this low-code solution here. But I did want to bring out that the trigger is that the agent is choosing amongst a list of topics to figure out which one matches what the user typed in. All right, so what's going to be different on this file upload one is that we want to be able to drag and drop a file here, some sort of like a PDF, and then we hit this, enter, submit button, and we want the fact that a file was dropped on there. You don't even have to necessarily, put any description. You could, but what the way this is set up is it's just like maybe this like bot is focusing on invoices, and its job is to look at the invoice that you uploaded and summarize some key points out of the file that you uploaded. So let's go ahead and I'm going to kick this off before we jump into the details, just so you kind of understand what it's going to do. So I've got an invoice over here that I'm going to put into this. And so here's my file, and I'm going to go ahead and submit it. And see, it's, it found invoice.pdf, which is what I uploaded. And you can see that it's going through, figuring out, it's hit this summarize invoice prompt AI tool. So this is where we're calling out to ChatGPT, language model, and then here's the summary that it's going to. So here's the date. So like here's, if we take a look at this invoice, here's the invoice number, the date, and the total amount due in this sample PDF document. So if we come back here, then we see the date, the invoice number, and the amount due.
Now, was there anything you needed to do to tell it what structure you wanted that to be in, or?
There was, and that's where we're going to jump into now.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to jump into this file upload topic and see how this file uploading and this message coming back and this call out to an LLM to summarize this this information from the file happens. So we come in here to file upload, and you'll notice that the trigger now is an activity occurs, which is
pretty
different
big.
than, there's like a whole list of like changing triggers. So here's the agent chooses, which is what we had before. Activities includes messages and events.
Okay.
So there's some choices that you can pick. But if we jump into here, an activity occurs, and if it meets this condition, then the rest of this continues on. So you can have things like custom variables, some system variables, environment stuff. But here's a formula. So system.activity.attachments is the variable that gets values in it if you've uploaded a file. And you can upload multiple files, but in this case, we're just seeing that this list of attachments has something in it. So is it empty? And then I wrap it with another function that's a not function. So basically, we're saying if it's not empty, so if we have uploaded a file, then we can continue on. So that's kind of the formula that you had to use to do that. Then what it's going to do is it's got this message loading file, and we're able to then also do a function so once again, we're doing this system.activity.attachments, which is our list of file attachments, and then we're calling the first function on that, so it's going to grab the first item out of that list and then use the name property on that, and that's how we get this over here where we can see loading file and then the invoice PDF, which is the file that I uploaded. So then the next thing here is this summarize invoice prompt. So this is a model prompt. So now we're going to call out to our LLM to get some information. But here, once again, we're using this first system item. So we're saying grab the first item, and that's the input into this prompt. And then the output of this prompt is going to put it into a variable called prompt output. And then the message is, here's your summary. And then it's going to spit out the prompt output. And that's how we get this summary. So, and then we end all the topics. So let's go in here to this this model, kind of this prompt here. This is the challenge that I have with low code tools, is that it just takes so long to do different things, and you're like, okay, there we go. So this was just a prompt, element, and I gave it a name, and I selected which model I wanted to use. So I've got some different models I can choose from. So I just did 4.1 mini. And so I said, your job is to summarize an invoice. Here's the output format. And I just said invoice, date, parens, invoice number, amount due, and then invoice, colon, and then this is the variable that got passed into here is in this variable. And so then it just splats out the file contents. So it's opened up the PDF, read the contents, splatted that into here, and now that's what's going to get sent to the LLM. And so that's how I get the output format the way that I wanted to. This is very simple. You could do a lot more. You can extract certain values out. You can do a better summarization. You could do all kinds of stuff in here, but this is just to sample to show. That is the process of creating this this example that I had. So very simple. Some conversational things, a little bit more, complexity with file uploads, and a little bit of LLM calling. But the last thing I wanted to show was just some more of the enterprise features of this. So I'm just going to click on this to kind of show. If you come here to add a tool, this is the prompt tool that we use. But you can. So there's a list of tools, which I think are separate tools over here that you could create yourself, and then they're available to other flows. There's this list of basic tools, but here's this connector. And so this is where you start to get, you can control things, and this is where the enterprise stuff comes in. So you can work with an Excel spreadsheet. You can get a row, you can delete a row, you can send email notifications. So like you can say, like if I were to do something like email, then you've got all these different providers. So in some ways it's kind of something like if this then that, or now I can't remember the name of the other one, the other automation tool where it's just got lots of different connections. So like Polite Mail allows you to add emails to a list, and so you've got Google stuff. You can delete an email in Gmail, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can. So lots of different connections on things that this agent could do. Now these are things, so this is meant to be like this test agent here could then be deployed in Teams or someplace else, or even on a website or something. And then so you're interacting with the agent, and it's kind of more of a, I'm asking it questions, I'm uploading files, I'm doing things. Now something else that it can do, which I haven't really explored in too much depth, is this flows. So flows are things that can happen kind of outside of this conversation that you're having with the bot itself, right? So what if instead of uploading the file as you're having a conversation with the agent, what if you want to send an email to a specific inbox, and then that's the thing that kicks off the agent to then do whatever you want it to do? So that's where we can come in here. We can create a new agent flow, and
so these flows are kind of like, I was about to say these flows are kind of like triggers, and then I see the sign, the box that says add a trigger.
Yeah. So the way I'm understanding it at this current point in time is that these are kind of like server side things that are that exist outside of a specific conversational session with a bot, right?
Okay.
So I can come in here, and for example, I can type in email, right? When a new email arrives, when an email is flagged, when a new email arrives in a shared, what is it, shared mailbox. So when an email arrives in Gmail. So these are things that you can create an agent that has triggered by something other than a user interacting with the bot itself.
Okay.
So, all right. So that's what I've got. It's not a super complex example, but it shows you some of the uses of Chatbot Studio, kind of where it fits. It's a low code solution that is either conversational. It's got ability to do design like workflows on a designer, set variables, but it also has this ability to be triggered outside of a conversation.
And it seems like a pretty reasonable flow, a pretty reasonable way to set things up and design it and so forth.
Right.
When you go to deploy it, where are you deploying it to? Or how do you make it available?
You know what? I do not know the answer to that yet. So publishing is publishing. I'm assuming some someplace in Azure that is being published, and then you would have to publish the bot someplace else, something like deploy it to Teams, Microsoft Teams, or something like that. So I think there's the place where the agent gets deployed, and there's also a place of how do you deploy the bot itself.
Well, how is the bot different from the agent, I guess?
Well, because I guess you can deploy. Let's see if I can come back here to show you this. Like if I were to pick this, our agent again, we can come here to channels and we can say that this is going to be a web app, or this is going to be Facebook or Slack or Twilio, or so this is kind of the way where you would say, oh, this is an Alexa, or this is a dialogue,
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's channels of where the agent is going to be visible from the user, and there's some control over that. But then there is this back end piece as well, something that would listen on an email inbox for things. So there's got to be some server side place as well that this exists. So have to dive into that on the publishing side of things.
Okay. I still feel like I don't have a grasp on what the difference is between the agent and the bot in this case, but
Yeah,
okay
I
for
guess
now.
I'm using bot and agent, I guess, interchangeable because there's you're conversing with something here.
Right.
They're using, yeah. So, but I guess I'm wondering myself, where do I deploy this thing that the user is going to interact with versus maybe these flows that are server side that are listening for other things that
Hmm.
can be around when the bot's not around.
I think that's the key thing. And Noble and I discussed this a little bit. Is this, we're just beginning to understand this notion of an autonomous agent or an asynchronous agent
Yeah.
where, we can just turn them loose and they kind of live out there on their own and eventually come back with what, we ask them to do.
Yeah, they're
Um,
triggered from things that are not necessarily a user saying do this thing. It's just like, oh, I'm helping you handle emails, invoices that are sent to a specific email
right.
address or something like that.
Or at least that's one possible way for them. I also
Yeah,
think of it as kind of an agent that's just, I'm not even sure I would say that it has a specific trigger. It just, well, I guess it. Well, I don't think. I guess this vision of independent agents, yes, they'd have a trigger, but it's not necessarily one that we associate with it. It's this is an agent that's kind of on the lookout for hot deals. For example,
yeah,
or monitoring logs for suspicious activity. Is there a trigger on suspicious activity? Well, maybe, but really, is it a trigger on every log event that comes in?
yeah,
But I get the intent here, and that's you've got a variety of different ways that the agent knows when to start doing something, and just
yeah.
chat happens to be a really common one right now. Okay, so this is all very interesting.
So is there something in the Google world that's like similar, or is that like back to Dialogflow
I mean, this is
or
Dialogflow. this is and Dialogflow has evolved a lot in the past 4 years.
Yeah.
So it's part of this whole suite of tools, which now includes more agent specific stuff. But everything about this feels so dialogue flowy to me.
Mm.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that's where the industry as a whole is beginning to go with some of these personal agents.
Yeah, and very very much the intent from everything that I was reading all the documentation was talking over and over again about enterprise scenarios, enterprise use
Yeah.
cases, enterprise. Yeah, so that's where Microsoft is really trying to pound things into to business head is that this is enterprise. This is if you're doing an enterprise, then just don't look at anybody else. Just use us.
Well, right. And again, that's where Dialogflow has been for since they kicked Assistant out. Is I mean, literally as an enterprise agent. Um, even with integration with CCAI, call centers, very much an enterprise approach to things. And it's interesting in many ways that how on the Google side, kind of there's this AI tide that has swept in, and we still have this other side of the world that's just very, very different.
Yeah. There's lots of different tools out there. Thought it would be interesting to check out Copilot Studio and kind of give a quick tour of that so people would understand kind of where it's at and see if it fits any of your use cases. But
Very much, I think this is all really interesting. I'm really kind of curious that I really hope at some point you go play with that voice
yeah,
template to see what that's like and what that's doing.
yeah, I am definitely interested in what's going on there. So I'd be interested if other people are using Copilot Studio, what type of use cases you're using it for, how you're finding it, what you like, what you don't like. And I'm sure that we will be talking about other things Microsoft and Copilot Studio sometime in the future on Two Voice Devs.
Your voice devs. Take care, Mark.
Yep, you too, Alan. Thanks.